Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through some of the problems from the 4A assignment. All right, first one, number one, solve for x. So we want to get x all by itself, so we got to get rid of that square. To undo the square, we square root both sides. So we end up getting x equals square root of 4 is 2. Now, super important, on this here, it can actually be plus or minus 2, because 2 squared gives us 4, and so does negative 2 times negative 2. Or negative 2 squared also gives us 4. So we get plus or minus 2 on that one. Okay. For E, first thing we want to do is get rid of the 2. So we divide both sides by 2 and we get x squared equals negative 5. And then we square root both sides. And then as soon as we see the square root or any kind of even root of a negative number, we know that there are no real solutions. Okay, that will not, you can't take the square root of a negative number. Okay, this last one here for number one, I'm not a huge fan of fractions like most people, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all those fractions by multiplying by the common denominator, which in this case is 8. So half of 8 is 4, so that's 4x squared. Half of an eighth. 8 times negative 1/8 is negative 1. And then don't forget to multiply the 1 by 8 also, so we get equals 8. Okay, and now this becomes a little bit nicer of a problem. Add 1 to both sides, 4x squared equals 9. Divide both sides by 4, and we get x squared equals 9/4. And then we want to square root both sides, which gives us x over here. Square rooting is going to make this plus or minus, and we can simplify this to be square root of 9 over the square root of 4. So it's going to be x equals plus or minus, square root of 9 is 3, square root of 4 is 2, so it's plus or minus 3 halves. Okay? All right, number 2, solve for x. We've got these 4 to try out. Same idea, we want to square root both sides to get rid of that square root, and the square will cancel each other out. We get x minus 3 equals square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. Add 3 to both sides, and we get x equals 3 plus or minus 4. So we want to do 3 plus 4 and 3 minus 4. So we get x equals 7, and we also get x equals negative 1. Okay? Let's make that so we can see this a little better underneath. There we go. All right, same idea here. Square root both sides. We are left with x plus 4 over here, and we'll do plus and minus. And root 13 isn't a perfect square or even have any perfect square factors in it, so we just leave it as root 13. That's third form, right? And then really our last step is going to be subtract 4 from both sides, and we get x equals negative 4 plus or minus root 13, and we call that good. Okay? This one here, which is I here, we're going to do square root both sides, and we get x minus root 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. We add 2 to both sides, actually root 2, not just 2, right? So this ends up going away, and we get x equals 2 square root of 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. So we're going to get x equals root 2 plus root 2, and also we're going to get x equals root 2 minus root 2. Okay, now, common mistake here is people will add the 2 and the 2 together and say, oh, it's square root of 4. It's actually not the square root of 4. You cannot add, when you're adding roots together, you cannot add them inside the root. So I kind of think of this as like a variable or something like that, like t plus t. That's going to give me 2t, or in this case here, 2 root 2's. So x is going to equal 2 root 2, and over here, root 2 minus root 2 is simply 0, so we get our 2 different answers there. All right, and then k here, square root both sides. This square and this root here cancel each other out. 2x minus root 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. We are going to add the root 3 to both sides. Right, that goes away, and we're left with 2x equals root 3 plus or minus root 2. Those don't play together. So our last step really is to divide both sides by 2, and we simply get x equals the square root of 3 plus or minus root 2 all over 2, and you cannot simplify that any further. Okay? All right, if you have any further questions on any of the 4A assignment, please feel free to ask. Thanks.